Andrew, can you come man the stream, please? Yeah, so we stream everything online. So if you want to go and look us back up on YouTube and replay any of the stream or any of the session, it's all available online. Okay, so welcome. A lot of new faces today. A lot of people that I've seen before too, which is great. Welcome everyone. Just want to quickly cover our time and location. So it looks like we're going to be meeting here for the next little while. There's a potential that we might get a new space. Microsoft is kind of toying with the idea. Well, they're definitely opening a reactor space at Mars Discovery District. So Mars Discovery District is at the college and university intersection, like right in the kind of heart of the healthcare district, but it's like a kind of startup incubator and interesting space there. And the Microsoft Reactor space is built for startups and communities. So we'd be welcome there. However, I want to just take a quick informal survey here. So who would be open to the idea of attending a meetup at college and university versus this location? Would that work for people? Yeah. Is it convenient? And who would say it's inconvenient? Anybody? So that would pretty much work? Okay, so we might toy with the idea of using that space just depending on availability and how that's going to work out. We're waiting for it to open to get more details. They don't have a manager in place and they're still working on the space. So we'll be contacting our members if we do change locations again. But I think tonight's off to a good start. So we will continue using the BSI Labs space. So we meet the third Tuesday of every month. We love having speakers like Alan. Sometimes I'll talk, sometimes Daniel will talk. Any of you would like to talk, please let me know, and we'd love to have you present. Our next meeting coming up, Daniel's going to run. I'll be away, and we'll have just come back, or he'll have just come back from the Xamarin Developer Summit. And as some of you know, we're giving away some passes to that at the end of this session. So Daniel will come back and give a recap of everything that we saw and learned and what was demoed at the Xamarin Developer Summit down in Houston in July. So that'll be a great one. Don't miss that. I'm sure there'll be tons of great material coming out of that summit because really, like, Alan's going to be there and tons of people who are heavyweights from the Xamarin community are going to be there presenting. The Microsoft team in charge of Forms and the Xamarin Platform Specifics are going to be there. Visual Studio for Mac, the whole thing. So I'm sure there'll be tons of great stuff coming out of that. So that next one will be on July 18th, right back here. Like I said, if you are willing to present or like to present, we had two really great sessions back early in this year where we did lightning talks. They're absolutely phenomenal. So we had Marcelo did a presentation, Scott did a presentation, we had a few other community members come in and present what they had worked on. And it was really phenomenal to see what other people in the community had worked on and show us some new ways of doing things. It was a really great, enriching experience for, I think, everybody who was involved. So if you want to talk, please let us know and we can set up another lightning talk session sometime in the near future. If you want to connect with us, I just finished redoing our website and moving it over to WordPress. So it's TO Mobile Devs. It's got the social media links to YouTube and everything like that, so you don't have to remember individual URLs. You can just go to this website. And so if you want to connect with us, it's an easy way. Thanks to our sponsor. So BSI Labs is our recurring sponsor. Cover our food and prep time for me and Andrew and Daniel and everybody else who helps out. We get a lot of help from inside the company to make this event happen, and thank you to BSI Labs, and particular thanks today because we have the space. It's nice to have a decent space that we can kind of count on. And we've been bounced around a couple times. So BSI Labs can help you accelerate your mobile development projects. We're a full service enterprise mobile development shop. We have technical consultants. We do project management, mobile strategy, the whole works. And you can find us at bsilabs.ca. A couple community announcements. So Xamarin Developer Summit, July 11th and 12th in Houston. So July in Houston. Yeah, I'm sweaty just thinking about it, so that's going to be great. It will be great though, like everybody's going to be there, and so we've got some passes to give out. I'll get to that at the end of today's session. We'll get back around to this in a minute. Another big announcement, so we're going to be hosting the Toronto.mobile.net developers group, so our group is going to be hosting a full day hands-on session with participation from Microsoft. Hopefully Alan will participate as well. We got a couple other people signed up. Andre Pineda, if anybody's ever heard of Andre, he's going to be helping out and lending a hand. David Ortno, the project manager or program manager from Xamarin Forms, will be joining us. He's committed to coming down, and we're really jazzed about that. So we're still, again, waiting to hear back from Microsoft about space. So the location will likely be at Mars for this one. Full day event, we'll do speakers, we'll do hands-on, we'll do workshops, we'll do collaboration. So we're going to have a little bit of everything. We'll probably have 2 separate rooms with 2 tracks going. One for just speakers at the front of the room, like presentation style, and another one for workshops all day, so you can kind of bounce around. And if you are planning on participating, but you haven't built apps using Xamarin, we're going to be hosting a preliminary setup session on the Tuesday before. So our regular 3rd Tuesday of every month, we're going to dedicate that one so people can come in. They can come in here, bring in their laptops. We'll make sure you've got your dev environment set up and ready to start writing code on the Saturday. So if you're new to Xamarin and you want to, this is your first exposure to it, you can show up here. We can show you how to get up and running. So if you know people who are interested in Xamarin and want to get started, please let them know that this is happening. The point of this is to try and get people more comfortable with Xamarin and grow the community and get people more acclimatized to what it's going to take to build and ship mobile apps. And then our plug for the .NET Community Stand-Up. So this is the first Thursday of the month at 12:30, and you can find it at the tiny URL link here. They cover all kinds of cool stuff and usually have some good guest speakers on. In addition to this, the Xamarin team's pretty active on Twitch. You can hit, like James Clancy is on there, James Montemagno, David Ortno. They're all on Twitch. They do live streaming. Alan did a live streaming session. Alan's on Twitch. Daniel and I will sometimes hop on Twitch and do a live streaming live coding session. It's a really fun thing to see how other people are working and get some ideas and even contribute, right? Like it's almost like a group paired programming to some degree. So it's pretty fun. So I encourage everyone to both check out the .NET Community Stand-Up and the Twitch feeds. Okay, and that's that. One more thing. So I'm gonna just pop out of PowerPoint here. So if anybody's been following BSI Labs on Twitter and social media the last couple of weeks, on Monday, we launched an app called Rate the Meet. So this app is targeted directly at groups like ours. It's a way for us to, for both the participants to benefit and the organizers to benefit. So what we do is we publish little surveys. They're like really short, easy to fill out, just like a star rating survey. So you flip through, maybe leave some comments, leave a star rating on all the questions, fill out a questionnaire, and then you get entered for the swag draw at the end of the session. So we'll be doing that today. Grab the app. It's called Rate the Meet, just all one word. You can grab it off of the App Store or Google Play. And we'll be doing a draw for 5 passes to the Xamarin Developer Summit. So if you're looking to go to that session and need to cut the cost down to justify it to your boss, or maybe you're paying for it personally, we have 5 passes up for grabs. So be sure to grab the app, fill out the survey at the end of the session, and we'll do a prize draw. And a big thanks to the BSI Labs team for putting that together. It's been a lot of hard work from primarily Emily at the back and Matt at the back. Did a really great job pulling this together. And that's it. Over to Alan. Alan's going to talk about Shiny.
You guys set me up.
Okay, just drag it over here and we'll plug you in. Should be that easy. Should.
I like to walk around. Are you going to be able to walk around, or do I got to stand here like a tool?
You could stand like a tool, or you can walk around, but you just got to know you won't be on camera.
You don't want to be a cameraman?
Well,
Be a cameraman. Come on, man.
maybe a little.
Come on. Have some fun. It
Fun.
won't be boring. It's got to be interesting.
Let's see. Let's see how easy this is going to be. This tripod's going to fall apart before I can actually get it to twist the way I want it. Fell apart when I was setting it up today. It's good. How's the view from the camera?
It's just
What's that?
that looks good.
Live. Okay.
All right.
That's not helpful.
And I gotta watch that thing too. Okay, yeah, you do.
Give me a sec.
Okay, hold it.
Al. Our stream is not live.
I'll just blind people at the back of the so I can't see.
Just give it 1 second here. I'm going to make sure that we're streaming. Right now, we're not streaming.
Oh, we're not streaming.
No,
Do you want to repeat everything you just said?
I do not. I have no desire to repeat.
My battery will
anything.
be dead by the. It's a MacBook, right? So it'll be dead by the
Are you
time.
plugged in?
Well, I should be.
You should be.
You reminded me to plug in. It's got about 5 minutes of power.
It'll come
that?
back.
Ah,
Just bear with me for 1 second. So we were just talking earlier about how much of a pain it is to administer these YouTube streams, and here's the proof right now. We never got the stream to launch.
what do you think? Is this thing gonna work?
Clicker.
Works and then it doesn't. Useless thing. Ah,
So we're recording but not streaming, so that's gonna have to be good enough because for some reason YouTube won't take our stream.
we're going Twitch.
I could switch gears to Twitch.
We can Twitch. What's the term for twitching? Is it twitching? Sounds like a good one.
Over caffeinating.
I'm good at that.
Same.
Yeah, you drink all the fancy coffee. That's what I should have gotten before I came.
Fancy coffee, get that pinky in there.
What?
Pinky's up.
Oh, okay.
Fancy coffee,
I don't
man.
know what the hell you're talking about.
I'm not gonna stop. I'm just gonna let it keep going, Alan.
Okay,
Because,
so we're recording.
yeah,
we're not
we're
recording
recording.
me, but we're recording that, right?
we're recording wherever the camera's pointed. So where you're not,
I thought you were going to be a cameraman.
I can't get to the road.
Okay, so I just got to stand here. I hate standing. I like to walk around. So I'll walk around a little
You
bit.
got like a 3-foot span. You can paste within that box.
Yeah, let's go this way. We'll just go this way a little bit, and then you can move it back. Is it good?
Yeah, it's pointed at the screen.
And then I'm going to go way over here, so I'm still off camera. That's what you get from us.
There, slightly. Go for it.
Are we good? Can we actually start?
Yeah, go
All
for
right.
it.
So hi, everybody. A lot of familiar faces in here. Some of you I've had the unfortunate pleasure of working with, or the opposite way around, actually. Is there anybody that doesn't know Xamarin in here? Everybody knows Xamarin? Everybody knows? You guys are new? Okay. This one's going to be a little bit of a challenge for you. You've done mobile development though, right? No? Okay. So we probably went to like the 500 level. Probably the August 20th would have got you off to a good start. But anyhow, I'll try and mix in ASP.NET. .NET at least, right? Okay. You're a manager, Diva. You don't count. Hey.
Uh-oh. Your laptop suspend?
I don't see why. It's in presenter mode. Screen showing.
Oh, this capture card. Unplug it and plug it back in.
Is it working? Oh. Is it working?
It's not working. It's not capturing.
Okay, hang on.
Hold on, let me reset it here. This is the fun with this capture device. Anybody who's been here before has seen me fight with this before. Time to get a new one.
Ah, it's blinking.
It's trying.
I mean, I can hold the thing up over my head and I can just talk.
Well, we can
feel
get
like
rid of
that's
the pass-through. Here, Alan. Here. Let's just screw the capture card. Plug right in.
Okay,
Just switch the HDMI cables.
so nobody
and
can
we'll
see
capture.
anything now?
No, we'll just point the camera at the screen.
Oh, okay. Ah, that works.
There you go.
See, it would have worked anyways, because there's my big giant head on screen anyways as a cartoon. It's pretty cool. So, for those that don't know me, my name is Alan Ritchie. I have been doing software development for almost 20 years. So, looks like there's a lot my age and a lot that aren't. I am a former Xamarin MVP. I am a current Microsoft MVP. And, well, I'll say it, I do lots of Azure, but don't we all? I left that to the end because I know a lot of people that come out to these don't want to hear about Azure. You guys don't want to hear about Azure, right? Anyone wants to hear about Azure? Okay, thank God. I blog, I Twitch, Twitching, Twitter, GitHub, all that stuff. Talk to me after if you want to see any of that stuff. Technical difficulties.
Mm-hmm.
So for those that do mobile, who does any type of background or device access in here? Show of hands. You still do background, Jason? Yeah, I know you do. GPS, geofencing. Okay. What's the hardest thing you guys have when you deal with this stuff? Anybody? Nobody wants to throw out any guesses?
Bluetooth.
That doesn't count. Bluetooth doesn't count, Jason. Good try.
Trying to get things
Yeah.
to behave.
Accessing the signal from the GPS satellite.
Okay. What about backgrounding? That's often the one that I see people screwing up.
Yes, sometimes because of the synchronicity between the UI and the printer.
Okay. What about in the background? So does anybody actually do stuff where the app is hidden away? Anybody show hands? Okay. And it's pretty complicated, isn't it? There's not really a one straight way to write it. So it's pretty tough. It's pretty tough. So the stuff that we're about to talk to today is to deal with the device hardware and backgrounding services from a mobile perspective. I'll tell you what exactly Shiny is, because does anybody not know what Shiny is? You're just coming out. Nobody knows what it is? Okay. So you just saw the cool title and decided to come out?
Okay, for you.
All right, I appreciate that. I'll show you how to use it. I'm not a PowerPoint master by any means. You know, a lot of people tell you my UI skills in here. That's definitely not my thing. So no comments about the UI. I'll show you good code. And I'll tell you about the little bit of the road ahead for Shiny, because it's not just going to be limited to Xamarin. I am looking at some other platforms as well. And then I'll give you the links, and then everybody can ask some questions. There we go. So this is my ideal PowerPoint, and I actually decided to get good old David Ortno up there. So I got him doing a quote that says he only does PowerPoints by getting Giphy images and stuff and throwing them on the screen. So I figured I'd do the same because I really suck at this stuff. So there'll be lots of memes in here. So that is a fact. One does not simply background on mobile. And anybody that tells me different is lying to me. So some of the problems we face when we do mobile, or when we do kind of .NET development with mobile, the backgrounding, we generally tend to want to do async, await, events, dependency injection, all that stuff, which isn't really, it's not really a thing, especially on iOS. iOS, you know, hates dependency injection. Is anybody using dependency injection on native iOS? Anybody? Really? What do you use for that, out of curiosity? Homemade? For dependency injection on native iOS.
Dependency injection just easier class to.
Okay, that's a native iOS though.
Yeah, native.
Okay, all right. So it's not common. Usually they're using static singletons everywhere. Android does have a lot of dependency injection frameworks out there. In the Xamarin community, I haven't seen anybody generally use this properly. And that's just because of the way Xamarin Forms generally tends to work, and we'll cover that. One of the other problems we face is that the OS is definitely out to kill us. Whoever has done background, you'll sit there and you want to debug it, and every time you go to debug it, you get about 10-15 seconds before it just dies. The OS kills you, and it's just general hell to work with. You know, I've had projects recently where I even screwed up on this. So, you know, I went to debug it, I'm expecting the thing to fire, and it's not firing, it's not firing, it's not firing. Well, it turns out I had a problem with dependency injection, so who knew? Other stuff, people probably in the Xamarin community do end up using a lot of plugins. You may have had the unfortunate experience of using some of mine. Anybody using geofencing? No? Okay. And the problem with that is it doesn't have enough infrastructure to keep it going. So if you don't do the servicing on Android or the delegates on iOS yourself, it's going to shut down. It's not going to work in the background. So plugins, they're great surface level, and then they generally tend to be crap after that. So yeah, just to explain the differences really quick. Delegates, iOS is big on their delegates, serializing memory down to the disk. And then when they bring the app up, they just kind of bring all memory back up with it. Android has, I don't know, 5 different ways of calling backgrounding. They have services, intent services, foreground services, broadcast receivers. I'm probably forgetting some. They invent a new term with every release. So it's hard. And anybody that uses UWP will just ignore that for now because nobody really cares about UWP, right? Nobody? Anybody want to throw something at me? I know it's mixed reactions. So again, just to kind of cover the breadth, UWP does have backgrounding tasks and triggers. They actually are quite nice. If you do use UWP, they kind of got the backgrounding story mostly right. Android, no, and iOS, like I said, their delegates are pretty easy to figure out, aside when it comes to Bluetooth, which we know, right guys? Bluetooth is painful. So when I started out with what I wanted to do with Shiny, I really wanted a background experience that was consistent across all the platforms. I wanted to do all the things like the async and awaits. I wanted to do dependency injection. I wanted to have unit testing, which I know is, not a thing that usually happens in the Xamarin world. I wanted to have all those things to work with out of the box because they're powerful tools. They're necessary to building enterprise scale applications. And there's nothing really in the Xamarin community that I've seen that does it yet. One of the challenges that tends to happen is for those that have done geofencing or what's another one? Notifications. If your app dies, that data tends to disappear. It means you have to roll all the geofences back into memory when the app restarts. iOS tends to remember that stuff, but it's the only platform that does it. So that's kind of a pain, right? We end up writing all these data persistence mechanisms for a plugin. And then people complain, well, you're bringing in all these dependencies just for a plugin. But that's the nature of the beast, unfortunately. So it's a juggling act. Do I bring in all these dependencies and all this infrastructure just for geofencing? So that was one of the things with writing Shiny, and what Shiny really is a framework to build these device access services and backgrounding with minimal effort, while supporting all the infrastructure from underneath. Nope, wrong way. I should just give somebody the button and say, here, point. It's not going to change. So anybody using Xamarin Essentials in here? The Xamarin developers? Okay. It's not a lot of you, thankfully. I'm not looking to replace Essentials, but I have a lot of the same things that Xamarin Essentials does in Shiny, only because that's generally needed. You need that infrastructure, so you need a way of accessing the file system consistently. You need a way of persisting consistently. You need settings, you need connectivity, you need environment settings to know where you are. So it's got all that common stuff only because it has to be there, and I've been building that stuff for years, so I needed it for Shiny to function. So you can still use Essentials, and you still will in a lot of cases, because Shiny is not designed to get up front like Essentials does for your UI. It's designed to be in the background. So James Montemango called it, I think, Essentials plus plus. In a way it is. It's a different set of services with some overlap. And the periodic background jobs, but I'll cover them today. I'll show code, if I can get that far. Jeez, this thing sucks. It's like you've heard. So beyond the essentials for Shiny is the stuff like Bluetooth. Anybody doing Bluetooth work in here? Yeah. It's pretty hellacious, isn't it? Yeah. Beacons. Anybody doing beacons? I know that's kind of it was a cool thing for a while. I think it's kind of dropped off a little bit, but does anybody not know what a beacon is? Beacons? No. Quiet audience. Quiet audience. GPS and geofencing I already asked you about. How about background uploads and downloads? I know Mr. There he is. Yeah, that guy's doing a lot of it. It's pretty difficult, isn't it? Yeah. What's the hardest part about it? Anything you can think of?
Handling the connection dropping.
That's a good one. That's common. Backgrounding tough for you too? The backgrounding? So I do that stuff, some of the background uploads and downloads, that's in there. And then obviously sensors, stuff like your accelerometer, what's some other sensors on the phone? Ambient light, all that junk. So that's still there. All of these are plugins that I've had for years, but they all just didn't really fit the niche that Shiny will. Now it could go. No, wrong way. See, sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. It's just like it wants to. So we'll do that. And the GIF is even working. GIF or GIF? I gotta figure out how to get out of this thing. There we go. So now we're gonna figure out, if anybody watched David Ortno's live stream that I was on last, was that Thursday? Friday? Yeah, Thursday? Visual Studio gave me a little bit of a tough time. I blame Dylan personally for it, but you never know what's going to happen. So I decided to try, and I've got tons of samples, but I wired this one up today, so we'll see how it goes. Just because I wanted to show how easy it is to implement backgrounding with Shiny with minimal work. Now I usually do dependency injection through view models, but we're not going to get into complicated stuff like that today. I'll just show kind of the raw stuff, especially since we've got people that haven't touched it. Can everybody see the font, by the way? Is that big? You guys at the back? Yeah? No binoculars? Okay. All right. And hopefully, of course this guy's not going to show up now. Just give me 1 second. Come on. So most of the backgrounding stuff we do, like Bluetooth and beacons and stuff, they generally have to be tested on a device. The simulators don't give you that kind of power. GPS kind of works. If anybody's doing GPS testing on emulators, it's a bit tricky to do. You can do mocking of data, but obviously for what we're doing, that's not going to matter too much here. So now I can't even see the font, like I can't even see what I'm going to type. So some of the things we like to do from the background is let users know, what's happened. I'm here, or you've arrived somewhere. You want to wake them up and say, hey, you're welcome to Toronto. That's a common one. So we use notifications for that. So this is one of the Shiny features. And the other one is, well, let's do background job. A common thing for Shiny is also the background jobs, which is designed to run periodic tasks that should sync data. So stuff like if you've got, was anybody doing any sort of offline work? Show of hands. One person, come on. Come on. There's more of you in here doing offline data sync. So it's quite common in jobs that you want to wake up periodically, get data from your server, ship data back to the server, so that when internet does become available on your phone, you're pushing to and from the server as needed. So let's go ahead and create a job first before I start making all these things. So I'm going to create shiny tasks. I already have one. So the first thing I'm going to do is create a job. And this is the periodic effect. If it comes out here. Is that your computer, Brian, or is that mine?
That's this one. Yeah.
Oh, nice.
It's having a tough time. It's having a bad day.
Well, we'll see how IntelliSense goes in Visual Studio here, because it looks like it wants to fail me again.
Well, I'm here, so.
Yeah, look at that. It doesn't want to go. Okay, hang on. Only when you're on the feed, man. That's it. Let's try it again. Bring it up. That's why I had backup samples ready to go in case it did drop.
Is anybody else here? So, just a quick survey while we're on the subject of Visual Studio getting in trouble. Who's running Visual Studio on Windows? And who's running Visual Studio on Mac? Split. For those of the people running Visual Studio on Mac, who's had IntelliSense just stop working?
What is that? But not recently.
It is indeed dead.
Who uses Rider?
There's a bunch of Rider stickers up here at the front. Rider's good option. Alan doesn't believe in it yet because he hasn't tried it enough.
I don't, but this is the second time that Visual Studio has decided to really quit on me. Never quits on me, but always during a demo.
Yeah.
Anyone wants more pizza, they can see it.
Yeah, while I spin this thing back up.
I'm going to pause the stream, Alan. Take this opportunity to get reset.
Yep. I don't know why it went all small like that. There we go.
It's going through here.
Okay. My sunglasses somewhere in here. I don't know what the hell I did with them. If you find sunglasses, let me know.
We're half up and running.
What's half
Give
of
me,
it?
give me 30 more seconds here. Half up and running means YouTube is not great. It's like IntelliSense.
Yeah. Do we have people on the stream? Because if not, we can just say.
People waiting on the stream, yeah.
We had like 6 or 7 people.
Yeah, we're back down to 2. All right, well, it's a better recording either way, so I'm glad we did it. All right.
Better recording as in it's going to stay, it's not going to blink off me.
I hope
I'm
not.
going while I'm doing this. Because I'm not paying attention to that anymore. So.
Yeah, I'll pay attention.
All right. So where was I here? All right, IntelliSense is back because it's giving me the red squigglies of death. So we're just going to go ahead and IntelliSense this now. So what I'm doing right now is that I'm bringing out the way a background job does run with Shiny. Is anybody using some of the backgrounding jobs in Android? It's like crickets in here. No? Jason? Background fetch on iOS? Kind of? There we go. Okay.
I've used it previously.
Okay, so this is essentially the cross-platform version of this. However, Android's job framework is quite good. For those that have used it, it's powerful in the fact that it'll wake up with the internet. So as network connectivity is restored, it'll wake up. As it's lost, it'll drop it. Other stuff like if you start charging, it'll run. iOS really only has background fetch, so I piggyback off of that. But one thing I wanted to bring over kind of across UWP, Android, and iOS was a consistent backgrounding experience, because that's what doesn't exist. So, and I wanted to make it async because we all like async, right? We also like
Yes.
dependency injection.
Yes.
Sounds rehearsed, Dylan.
It's not.
You're not a convincing actor.
Hey, you know I like dependency injection and async.
I'm just going to break my own rules. Now, generally for background tasks, it's not something you want to do notifications in. It's not really appropriate. I know some people think it is because they just want to get through that hurdle. You can't talk and type at the same time, can you? I should get a typer up here. Didn't I do this before I got Daniel up to type for me?
So why you can't do notification in the background?
Because generally speaking, if you're going to do notifications in a background task, you want to do it with a push notification. Because a lot of this background stuff, especially on iOS, iOS is going to run these tasks when it feels like, not when you feel like. So it's actually good in a couple ways. With iOS, if it knows you're sleeping and it's the middle of the night, iOS isn't going to run this code. Doesn't matter if you want it to, because iOS knows, well, the user's sleeping. You don't need to be doing stuff. You don't need to be killing the battery. You don't need to be waking the person up by saying, bzz, bzz, hey, we got a sale for you, 50% off, come shop, and in the middle of the night, right? So they don't want that stuff to run. So if you're actually going to get into stuff where you need real-time interaction like that, then you need to be doing it as push notifications. I'm going to cheat because it's just really easy to do this for a demo, if I can type it out. Just got to bring, and we'll do hello.
It's that keyboard.
Yeah, it's a weird day. Actually, the keyboard's quite good, man. I got to admit. Everybody who hates the Apple keyboards, I kind of like it.
When I come from my older MacBook to the newer MacBook,
I just can't multitask. It's too many gray hairs. I'm working from the background. What don't you like? So one of the things is that this was designed for background fetch. So if you're going to do background fetch in iOS, iOS tends to watch you. It's got a really good safeguard. So if you say you're going to retrieve data and you don't make a network call, eventually they learn. So they've done this to me. That was that last project. So if you're not doing the network requests, they tend to say, well, you're using background fetch, but you're not really fetching anything. And then what happens is the AI kicks in and starts bringing you down. So it starts running you less and less and less until they don't run you at all. So if you are going to use a background job, it really is appropriate for you to hit the server. So if you're thinking about going like happy birthday here, just running on a timer, it's the worst place for it. Use push notifications. Now, I'm going to show you how we spin this up. So I'm just going to go over quickly how Shiny is different before I spin this job up, and how we initialize it. So everybody here who's done Forms, has everybody at least done Forms? Everybody? Okay, great. At least there's some hands, some activity in it. Okay, so in Forms, we've got our typical Forms init. We initialize Shiny just before Forms, and this isn't too big of a deal. Okay, the Android is where things get tricky. From an Android perspective, everybody's used to seeing this, right? This Forms init, pass in the activity, pass in the save state. This is great for frameworks like Prism, anybody who uses Prism, or ReactiveUI, where the UI is going to get active. But when you start doing background tasks like GPS and stuff, this code actually doesn't run unless your app comes to the foreground. So your app is dead. So if you look here, Shiny doesn't really get involved. You don't see an initialization. You do see permissions. If you use James Montemego's permission library, you see this hack appear. So I'm piggybacking on that. But Shiny, in order for dependency injection and true backgrounding to work, we need to initialize before Forms. We need to initialize before the app is actually, before Xamarin Forms does anything, before Prism gets involved. Shiny's got to get up and going. So the way we do that in Android is just with an application. An application will start up before all of your services, before any of your broadcast receivers. This guy will wake up and get all your stuff going. So there you will see how Shiny initializes. I won't go over what it's doing because it goes and does a bunch of crazy stuff, but at least know here that all your dependency injection and stuff is going to kick in right at that line. So everything tends to point to a startup. So how many ASP.NET Core developers in here? Pretty much everyone. All right. So everybody that's using ASP.NET Core, you're obviously using dependency injection there because they really give it to you out of the box. Is that a safe assumption? Is there anybody that says they don't use DI for ASP.NET Core? Okay, good. I'd have to throw you out. That would be pretty bad. So with Shiny, I wanted to make it the same way. I wanted to give that consistent experience because I find a lot of developers that start using dependency injection, and while this is shocking, they don't necessarily know what a singleton is, what a transient is, what a per thread is. Those are big technical terms. You probably should know what they are, but you don't necessarily have to. And if you're the consumer of a service, you may not know if that service is supposed to be a singleton or if it's supposed to be a transient. So what I started to do was a lot of these use notifications. Now it is a singleton because it's a mobile app, so most of the services will be a singleton. But you don't have to know that, right? It's just out of the box, designed to be pretty easy. So notifications. I don't even know what it's going to inject. I do know, I will show you what the interface is, but I don't know what it's going to do. I'm assuming that means notifications are going to work. Same for GPS. I can get it to come up. Yay, IntelliSense is working full time now. We'll get to that in a second. Use geofencing. We'll get to that in a second. And what else was I going to do here? We'll register a job. We'll register our job that I was going to run. Come on. So basically what this is registering all the stuff or all the services we want to use in Shiny or in our application in a cross-platform way. Everything will funnel through this, and then all your services can work out of that. So let's create our delegate. So you notice there's a few little kind of generics going on here. I'll show you what those are designed to be.
Alan, does it work with any dependency injection library?
It does if you wanted to. So this uses Microsoft extensions, which I chose to use for speed, and the fact that you can override it if you want to use AutoFac or you want to use dry IOC, whatever. I don't know. Some people use Ninject. I don't know. Whatever your preference is, you can't override it. All of those frameworks have an override for that framework, but I know that Prism. Dan Siegel and I are talking about how we can make that a clean picture so it's one UI or one DI to rule them all somehow. We are working on that, Dan, if you're listening. I know you don't want to believe it, but we are. So one of the things is that we don't have events. Okay, so if you are used to events in C# or the traditional async await, it doesn't work here. You can't quite do it that way. You still have to have a class that can be spun up from the background. So I'm going to show you how easy that is. So we're going to go ahead. So we've got this job. So I'm going to register this job. New job info. And we'll give it a type. So our type of job is, what did I call this? Shiny elements. And we have to give it a name because you might have multiple names. You might have the same job with multiple names. You might rerun it for different sets of parameters. I'll show what I mean by that in a second. And Shiny delegates. And what else do we want to have here? So the common case is you want to have some sort of internet. So if this job is going to run, the required internet access is any. I can't make that bigger, I'm sorry. There is 3 things there. I can barely see them here. Any, none, and unmetered. So if you want this job to run without internet, which I wouldn't recommend doing, you can. Any internet, so if it's metered, so if you're on like a cellular signal or Wi-Fi or whatever, that'll run. And then obviously Wi-Fi, there's just the Wi-Fi connection. So for this, I'm going to say any. And that's really all that's required in registering a job that's going to run periodically. So on iOS, it's roughly, well, when it decides, but roughly about every 5 to 10 minutes. Android will be a consistent 10 minutes, and UWP is about a consistent 15 minutes. So any questions before I continue? Yeah.
So with like local push notifications, we usually schedule the notifications on the OS, right? So you tell the OS that every day you want a local push notification to show up to the user, right?
Yep.
So with these jobs, do you also use the same approach? You delegate to the OS to fire your job up, or you handle it yourself? You store them in a local database or something, and
for the notification, store the notification.
So for these jobs, like how do you handle the scheduling of the jobs to execute?
So there's no schedule, right? It's a periodic task. It's not a scheduled task, right?
Okay.
So that's the big difference. So we call it a background job. It will run in the background, and it will go on a pattern for iOS to a degree, but it's periodic. It's not scheduled.
Okay.
There is scheduled notifications, but I'm not going to show that today.
Okay.
And now you said the app has to be running for the job to trigger, or
No, this is the whole point about this is that this code will execute if the app. So if you reboot your device, or other than swiping it away, if you swipe the app away on iOS, that's it. You got to wait till the user clicks on it again. That's the way it is in privacy.
yeah. So if you never start the app up, it won't run.
No, it'll run. So
Reboot the phone and then never start the app.
if you never start the app, there's nothing we can do, right? Because you still have to request the user's permission. Hey, we'd like to send you lots of mass marketing while you're walking around. They're very big on asking permission, so you gotta get permission to deal with the devil, so to speak. So that's it.
Sorry, I was a question.
Yep.
Can we change the 10 minutes for Android?
You can change it. Generally, what I tell people to do, because it is a periodic task, if you've got something that you want to run, say it's got to run longer, there are ways to configure it. I'm not going to go into that today. We can talk about it after
Like
if you want.
it's a property on this.
There is one that you can set in Android, but talk to me after about that. We'll let that one until after. But if you wanted to say keep it consistent, and you wanted to say like, okay, well, it hasn't been an hour since we last run, and you want to go across all of them, because iOS you don't get a say, right? It's going to run when it's going to run.
Yeah.
You can tell it, okay, well, it hasn't been an hour, and I'll show you in the job. There's ways to tell when it last run versus now. So there's lots of things you can do.
Is there a reason why we're defaulting it to 10 minutes for Android?
No, that's just the fastest it can go. Because people that generally want to use the framework, they want to just spam the user left and right. They want it real time. So I leave it at that, and if you want to tune it down, then you can. And all the data that you have there to work with to tune it down is there. So it's your problem, not my problem.
Why can't it be faster than this?
It can be. You can actually have an Android job run every minute, but the whole point is I want it to run somewhat consistently without blowing up your app, because people tend to go, it's too fast. Slow it down. So 10 minutes is what I thought was a good time, and it keeps it consistent because UWP is 15 minutes. You can't go lower than that. It errors. It errors in a mysterious way. It doesn't tell you it's actually broken. It's just broken. So again, UWP. Who cares? So I just want to wire up a few other things before we go. So this is our job. Again, it's going to run, let's say, every 10 minutes. For those that can't see, the font's too big now. Is it too small now? Too small? You good? Everybody at the back? Good. So this will run every so often, and we'll just keep spamming. But let's put some geofences in here as well. So you'll notice these guys are kind of angry, the red squigglies of doom. So we'll go ahead and put, let's put geofence on this, geofence delegate. And we will open that. And we will IntelliSense that. Now you can separate these by class. You don't have to put all of your interfaces or types for the delegates in one spot. Just for expedience sake, I'm putting them all in one place. And let's do geofence as well. Probably not going to have time to test with them, but let's do this. Oh, no, that's not what I wanted to put in. And we'll implement that. So make this async. And we'll make this async as well. So that's really it for backgrounding. For those that have written geofences, when you implement this code, let me register it real quick. What was it? Shiny delegates. Shiny delegates. I'm not going to run the geofencing just for the sake of testing. Is a little bit hard in here right now, but I will run the job in a minute. But this is really all the code that's required for a consistent background experience. This will work on every platform that Shiny covers right now, so UWP, Android, and iOS. This will run. That's all you have to do. And then all the logic that you're going to do, so for those who do database work, because everyone uses SQLite here, right? Everybody using anything else? No? What's that? You using something else? What's that? Postgres? Not in mobile though. In mobile, what else? In mobile, it's pretty much SQLite is king. If you're using something else, I fear for you.
What about you?
You're just saying that to be a pain.
From the front row.
What's that? Yeah, it's just, Osama giving me a hard time. Who knew? So you can inject that stuff. So if you had a SQLite database or a connection, you just have to register it with Shiny. So let's say we had, I'm just going to quickly do this. Singleton, you could do SQLite connection here, however you do that stuff. SQLite connection, if I can type it. Okay, so for those who are doing any Prism work or any sort of BI on mobile, you're probably used to registering your SQLite connection with Prism. The only thing you have to change is that Shiny actually needs to know about it. So if you want to use your SQLite connection in any of the delegates within Shiny, you need to register them within this startup file, which isn't complicated. And like I said, we are working on a way to bring this, if you are using Prism, that will carry right over into the Prism library as well. Anybody using Prism? Anybody not know what Prism is? Maybe I should be more clear. I assume everybody that's in the Xamarin world uses Prism, and that's probably a little bit wrong.
Anybody using any other MVVM frameworks?
MVVM Cross, ReactiveUI.
Yeah.
Really?
MVVM Cross.
All right. Yeah, that's stuck. Okay. So the difference is that you're registering that stuff with those frameworks, but it's after the fact, remember. So MVVM Cross and Prism, they're all after the fact. They don't matter. Their stuff won't be ready. So that's why we have to register it with Shiny and then pass all this stuff through to those libraries so that your background can work consistently. So I'm going to comment that out because we don't have a SQLite connection. And is there anything I'm missing here? So we've got notifications. So let's go ahead and run this and hope that nothing crashes. Let's go. So this isn't going to do much right now. It's just a button. But I'm going to show how we can actually debug a background job, especially on iOS. Why is that launching there? That is not what I said to launch. Did you lose track of my phone? Let's try that. Nobody text me while this is running. My phone's live on the screen. Osama. Everyone will see your texts.
100 times.
Eventually it's going to deploy to my phone. I thought this would have been faster. What's that?
Nothing.
Come on. So there's the prettiest app ever made. It's a button. So I'm not really going to do anything here. I just wanted to make sure that the app is spinning up with all the necessary permissions. But I'm going to actually show how we can prove that our code is running. So I'm going to change this to, where's that background mode? Did they move it on me? They did move it on me. Simulate with background fetch. Or we can just run the job. Just run the job manually. So we're going to go to our button, and we're going to go to job manager. And we'll run this. I'm just going to run it manually to start, and you won't see anything off of it. Run all. Wait, do async, we'll run that. You'll see nothing, because no notification, if your app is in the foreground, notifications don't show up on iOS. But I just want to prove that it's running first. While I figure out how to run the background fetch with 8.1 on Android. Look at that, they did change it. Why you guys gotta go and move this on me? Simulate with there we go. So it is asking for permissions to set the notification. So it is running our job. So we're going to go ahead and allow. But you're not going to see the permissions. So let's do. We'll see if that works while we're implementing some stuff. So let's go ahead and bring up some geofencing. Actually, geofencing isn't going to work. I'll bring this forward.
So with that notification or with the permission request,
yep,
is that implicitly done by Shiny?
It is. Like I request it on behalf of the user. Obviously, it has to be in the foreground. Like it has to be. Your app has to be hot for that. We'll bring up. Let me bring up the big app. Let me bring up. Oh, I went and replaced my big sample, didn't I? I did. I went and replaced my big sample on this phone. That's all right. Let me figure this out. Why did they go and move it on me?
You want to simulate background?
I just wanted to simulate the background fetch, but it's
in
changed.
The run menu.
Ah, no, it's just grayed out now.
Yeah.
I think it's because it's not registered. Hang on, I'll register for background fetch and we'll see what's going on. And pretty sure I registered for background mode.
Yeah, it's enabled to the top.
It is enabled, yeah.
Maybe you have to be running before that comes on?
No, because usually when you want to debug a background job, like the background fetch, it's supposed to just kind of run in a background mode. But for some reason,
Does it do it on the syndicator
It is-
or something?
I've tested it on phones before, but maybe you're right. Let's try it. Let's go on. XR. Yeah, they just don't want to do it today. So that sucks. Once again, that has.
Lesson here is never upgrade Visual
Ne-
Studio.
Never let Visual Studio upgrade in that
Ever,
time frame, but
ever. No.
maybe we'll see if this runs in the next few minutes while I take. I'll leave this up on screen.
So if anybody's interested to weigh in on that, I've been really coming at the Visual Studio for Mac team, trying to get them to put in the rollback so we can install older versions, because then you have best of both worlds, right? So if you install a version that's like a terrible nightmare dumpster fire, like has issues like Alan's seeing, you can just go to the old version. You don't have to press the team for a fix. You can just install the old version.
Is that what they do with 2017, 2019?
With 2017, 2019, I think they just like, I think they got a bunch of monkeys on typewriters to write the code.
So mean, so mean,
It's been bad.
so mean.
You can kind of do
Yep.
so with like, you know,
Sorry, I was just gonna say, for the job that for the device, the app that you deployed,
Yep.
will that timer still kick in because you just stopped debugging, or would you have to like launch it?
I have to launch it again. So timer's running now. So we'll see if that wakes up. If not, I'm just going to get iOS or Android going in the meantime. Because Android will show the notification.
so you can, if you know that they should come from Xamarin Android specifically,
Or iOS. You can roll that back.
yeah, you can get it from Jenkins or something.
Yeah, but the actual IDE kind of issues.
Yeah.
So this is another pretty app. So this time we should see the notification. Assuming it's going to ask for permissions. Although I didn't test with this guy. Let's see what's going on. And we registered the job. We registered that guy. So let's go to... If not, I'll bring up the big app in a minute. I'm going to make sure this is running. And that's running. So it is running the code, it's just not running the notifications because it's a simulator. So we'll leave that out. So botch demo today. Botch demo on that, but this is a beta. It is a beta. But the jobs framework does work in the background. Bluetooth works in the background. What else works here? Geofencing does work in the background. It's basically just all in one class and one startup file for the most part. So this is what I wanted Shiny to be, was a very easy way, a consistent way of dealing with all of these things without having to write a ton of code, without having to write a lot of services. On that note,
Are these separate NuGet packages like Shiny locations, Shiny notifications?
there is a few different ones. I can explain that after. Basically, if you do a NuGet search for Shiny, you'll see there's a bunch. They all are in beta at the moment. So let's run this. We're going to do a different mode now. Hang on.
Still capturing, so that's all right.
Is it?
Yeah.
Let me get back to this. So the road ahead for Shiny, it's not just going to be for Xamarin. I am looking at bringing this to WebAssembly. So if anybody familiar with WebAssembly at least, yeah, that's going to be a pretty cool tech when it comes out. You should follow Blazor. There's a company out of Quebec called Uno. They're doing some fantastic stuff too. I am looking at Tizen. That's a very popular market, surprisingly, coming out. Mac OS, obviously. Is anybody doing Mac OS development? I'm curious. Anybody in here?
Yeah, they're really
Nobody? I don't know if that's going to be big because WebAssembly is coming. And I am also looking at IoT. Meadow is a board that's being developed with .NET Core in mind.
Did you get
.NET
yours yet?
Standard. I didn't. They're still working on it. It's a beta as well.
Yeah.
So it's coming, and I am looking at bringing all that backgrounding experience there, so it's reused. I'm also looking at vastly simplifying what BLE is. So anybody that's worked with BLE, it's really complicated, especially when you start getting into characteristic management. And every time that you reconnect that device, you have to get new characteristics, you have to let go of instances. Otherwise, you end up with a whole ton of problems if you have worked with BLE. So I want to make that simple, so it's just an interface as well that you can consume and work with services. And I also want to make this so that the background works, or that the GATT services work with something more like API controllers, which is also something we don't have today. So if anybody's worked with GATT servicing at all, it's, how should I say it, complicated. Complicated, and there's a lot of code, and there's not just a consistent way of working with it like you do in ASP.NET Core. And if you're looking for resources on this, again, I am looking for help on this project. There is stuff like I need documentation, and I need some help testing, and I want some feedback on these APIs. So, you know, go to the GitHub site, try it out, bring out the samples. Hopefully I'm not going to commit that sample yet because it died on me. Go to my GitHub, shinylib.net, where there's a horrible documentation right now, and follow my blog to get some current documentation with what's going on. And on that, question and answer. Yes?
Can you spin up your big shiny demo?
I can. It's not working. It didn't work there.
Not at all?
Well, it does on iOS. It's just we're waiting for it. Did we miss the background?
Not even your like big.
The big app I replaced because I actually ran that.
Grab it again.
Well, I can boot it up. So wait for that. Let's wait for Windows to get going.
Mac. VS for
What's
Mac
that?
can't handle it.
What's that?
VS for Mac can't
I know. It's always VS for Mac.
Bring out the big guns. Does anybody see like usage for background jobs in their apps that they're working on?
For sure.
Yeah.
I did a background timer job a few years ago on Android data with Java, and there's a lot of code.
Yeah, there's a lot.
There's a lot of classes and just huge.
Yeah, same.
Just to do a simple.
I did. I think this third presentation we ever had when the user group started was on background jobs in iOS, and that alone was one talk. And then I planned to give another one about Android, and never got to it. But Android's a whole separate beast because you can have background jobs and foreground jobs, and they change policies a little bit. The OSs are getting both a little bit more. Well, Android's getting a little bit more restrictive, and iOS is getting a little bit more flexible on this kind of stuff. So consolidating them in the library is pretty good. Good idea.
I think a lot of people who work for Xamarin may just avoid background jobs because there's no clear direction on how to implement it.
There's no plugin. Well, now there
So,
is.
yeah, I think that with the more availability of this sort of stuff being easier, you'll see the use cases pop up, right? And you'll see people taking advantage of it because they can.
Yeah, I think that's been one of the clear problems for those that do work with Xamarin is there isn't a consistent framework for MVVM. There's not a consistent framework for this. I don't think this personally exists in any of the platforms right now. They're all usually just plugin based things that you grab, and it's like putting a jigsaw puzzle together. That's why I wanted to build this service so you didn't have to deal with that junk. But that is a problem. It's a fragmented ecosystem. Xamarin, Flutter is too. React Native. Is there any React Native developers in here? No, everybody's wrong. Are you? What's the React Native situation like? Do they have any background experience, or is it a jigsaw puzzle over there as well?
I'm not that familiar with that.
Okay.
I mean, they just released the latest release which solves their 64-bit problem on Android.
Everybody's having that problem.
Supposedly, haven't tried.
I know, like Daniel blogged about a pretty good use case about, so one of the clients we're working with has they basically want to spin up all the customer data and download to the device. So we generate a SQLite database on the server side and bring it onto the device. And so as soon as we basically want to make sure that data gets from the server to the device once that SQLite file is generated. So it uses backgrounding to actually make sure that it can still bring that job or bring that file over to the local device. So if you look at Daniel's blog, causeorexception.com, there's a blog article. It's your latest, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. His latest article kind of touches on, I think it's using your older library, isn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I have to migrate to Shiny now.
Yeah. Nice. But yeah, same concept. So it's using like an abstraction layer to download that generated file in the background.
So this is the monster sample. It's on GitHub for those that are interested to give it a try. This is basically, it does everything under the kitchen sink. So all the jobs and stuff that we just looked at. What's a good one? Compass is always a good one. James Montemago's done this sample before. It's just the Compass samples. This is obviously a little bit foregroundy, but you can read the sensors in the background if you wanted to. See, I'm going to click now. That's all on my device. GPS is here. And we'll bring that up. I wonder what happened to my UI there. Cool. Looks like I was starting to do something with that. So all the stuff that you want to play with, all the geofencing and GPS stuff is here to give it a try. Beacons, Bluetooth, for those that know about it. Go try out this app, give me some feedback, let me know what works, let me know what doesn't work. And hopefully backgrounding becomes a little bit more of a pleasurable experience for you. Hopefully. And on that note,
What I personally, the experience I had with the GPS, like comparing your library with Xamarin Essentials, is that Essentials, when you want to work with the GPS and with the user location, there's no simple way of getting a stream of that location. So as the user moves on with the phone, like walking around, like there's no like out of the box way of fetching that stream of changing position using Essentials. Whereas with Shiny, you get that out of the box, right?
You do, but I think the Essentials will bring that back anyways, because you can still get that event in the foreground. Like if you wanted to track yourself on a map, it's a common use case. I actually don't know why they didn't implement that yet in Essentials.
The only option you have is to ask for the current location, and you get one location back, right?
But true, but it's not good enough for a map.
Asking forever, but it's not a background job, right?
I just noticed that you can't see it under this stupid thing. This guy's running away. There we go. Bring that back. Everybody wanted to see Yoda anyways, right? So I know there's a lot to take in there. I had to kind of crunch this into an hour. But if you are working with background, I hope you give it a try, because I think you'll find that working with Android services and working with iOS delegates is a very painful experience. And you can't unit test them easy. With this library, you can. But I'll show that in a future demo. Any questions?
A little off topic, but if you're going to start doing apps today, mobile apps today,
Yep.
where would you start? Would you go Xamarin full bore? Would you do React? Like if you're starting fresh today?
I would still use Xamarin. I'm a little bit biased to it. I know there's a lot of Flutter people in the world. Some of them are sitting in here somewhere. You'll hear them later, I'm sure. It really depends on what your use case is. I think Xamarin's a more mature platform. There's certainly a bigger ecosystem in there. But Flutter's got stuff like the hot reload, a lot of those tools out of the box, because they came in way after the fact. I would still choose Xamarin just because it's a more mature platform personally. And it does have, it brings the .NET developers in there. And if you have had the unfortunate pleasure of working with Google, they tend to drop their services every year. So how many different push notification libraries have you been through with Google? What, 4? Are we on 4? Firebase is number 4. So, or iOS, it's just continuous because they make you update your phone every 3 years. Anybody else? It's quiet in here.
Off topic as well.
Yep.
When you think about the declarative UI in C# versus XAML and the talk about, a lot of people moving towards declarative UI. I've seen some Xamarin examples of it recently.
I don't really have an opinion because obviously I'm not good at UI as much as other people are. I don't mind XAML. It is a little bit chattery, very, very verbose. The tooling is a little bit painful sometimes. I don't know. Honestly, I think that the languages are richer anyways, but how do you get your designers involved? So if your designers will work with HTML and CSS, which is why CSS does exist in Forms, by the way, but I don't think they're ever going to work in a C# mode.
But they're not working in XAML.
True. Well, some of them do, and some of them.
XAML in your Xamarin apps?
If you're using Zeppelin or anything, that'll generate XAML for you. It'll generate HTML and stuff, but you won't see it generate C# for you. So I don't know how a designer would ever get involved in that, if they would. Now that's, again, mock-up tools are becoming better, so you don't necessarily need a designer doing that work for you. They'll have a UI developer and then a UI designer. You know how it works. I used to just go label entry, and say, here, Jason, it's all yours, right? I still do that today. Where's Matt?
Excuse me.
Yep.
There is a tool called Brain Code.
What's it called?
Brain Code.
Okay.
It is a tooling code, like you can walk your stuff into it and generate a code for you.
Okay. So you build the UI
Yes,
and everything?
generate a code.
Okay,
Objective-C or even Xamarin.
just for the look and feel.
Yeah.
Okay.
If you have something like something special, cosmetic and stuff like that, it will generate. You have and your designer design it in Illustrator or Sketchfile, and you can add some of the coding and stuff like that. It will generate it for you.
Okay.
What's that tool called?
Sorry. What was it called?
Code print.
Code Brand. Okay. Something to check out. I do think you'll see a lot of some cool tools coming out from Xamarin this year, though, to help with kind of some of the UI aspects and stuff like hot reloading. I'm sure they're coming with it. They'd be stupid not to come with it. So don't let hot reload be the only thing that kind of pushes you towards Flutter or React Native. There are other reasons to go with Xamarin. And I'm pretty sure they're going to come with that soon. Any other questions? No? Like crickets. Okay, well, thanks for your time. If anybody's got any questions for me after the fact, because you're all quiet, feel free to come up. There's lots of stickers up here. I don't know what this thing is. Dylan can explain what that thing is.
Gremlin. Yeah. So Gremlin's an interesting thing I ran across that collision. So
Okay.
they're doing, they call it chaos-based testing, and they've got basically an automated Gremlin tool that goes in and just start taking out parts of your infrastructure to see how resilient your infrastructure is. So yeah, kind of interesting. We got Prism stickers, Shiny stickers, JetBrains Rider, JetBrains ReSharper, JetBrains in general.
The Xamarin Developer Summit
Yeah,
stickers,
Developer Summit stickers.
which you now have to pick winners for.
Yes, Andrew, you want to do the honors on that? I think you have to. This is great.
So
Who is able to get in the app?
Natural submitting buttons here.
Uh-oh. This is called testing in production at its finest.
Commit to massive.
check the crash reports.
Yeah, we already did.
Just, why don't we just get some pen and paper?
Yeah, let's do old-fashioned way this time.
Stick them in the jar.
So if you, old-fashioned way.
Or we can do a pinata effect. That's where
Trial by
somebody
fire.
can tie a bandana around your head. And you
So
can
what we'll
spin
do
around.
is we'll actually use a random number generator. So, Daniel, can you give everybody a number in the room? And I'll find a good random number generator.
We could do the pinata effect. That's where we put a blindfold around you, spin you around. And the people you point at win the ticket.
We're not getting sworn.
That's the short. That would have been fun.
No more people just turn off.
Okay.
1, 2, 3.
Related to.
So let's start from 1 here.
Yeah.
So 1, 2,
how
3,
apps did, like,
4.
you know,
So I'll need you
Xamarin
guys to remember your numbers, okay?
Xamarin
4, 6,
or
4, 5, 6,
I'm not
7,
really sure if they're supporting that
8,
mode anymore.
9,
Can't speak
10,
to it.
11, 12,
You gotta remember everyone's name.
12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17. Are we counting BSI people too?
No.
No.
Okay, so you're, which one is it? 16, okay, so we have 16 people.
16 total?
Yeah.
Okay, so 1 in 3 chance. Everybody ready? I'm hitting the button here. I've got a random number generator website out. 5 random numbers between 1 and 16.
So he's 1, you're 2.
He's 3 from 0.
That's gonna take like 10 minutes to set up. Yeah.
Try the app, it works for me.
But not everybody's on it. All right. All right. Oh no, we got a duplicate. So 10, 16, 7.
Wait, so 16, you, right?
Who's 10?
Who's 10? You're 10? You're 10.
Really?
I don't actually do wow, so.
Okay, we'll do another redraw.
Well, it's a good place to go. It's a good summit to go to.
Okay. 7.
Marcel. Good.
Nice. 9.
Yep.
Awesome. Okay, so I'm gonna do it again.
We have one more or 2?
2 more.
It's a random number
13
generator.
and 12. Nice.
I don't know how random it's all.
Random's random.
Oh, I'll see the seed.
There we go. And then if anybody else wants to, so if anybody has won a pass and isn't planning on using it, and somebody definitely wants to go, let me know. We do have some other offers available. We have some, I'll tell you exactly what we have. So we have, in addition to the 5 free passes, we also have 10 additional tickets at $99. So instead of using the, I think it's what, 400 US right now, something in that range.
547.
Yeah, something like that. So $99 US instead of the full ticket price. If you're keen on going. Who is going? Who's already going? Anybody? I know us 3 are going. Anybody else? No? Who is planning on using their pass that they won? Yeah. Marcelo. Anyone else? Who didn't win a pass but really wants to go and is planning on trying to go? Sama?
Masala wants a free vacation.
All right, we'll talk. So if you have won a pass and you don't want to use it, please let me know, because we'll make sure to try to solve one. So, all right. How about a round of applause for Alan?
You're the boss.
What's that?
All I
That's what it is. Help yourself to pizza. Again, our next meetup will be a wrap on covering what Daniel took in at the Xamarin Developer Summit. So if you're not going, it's the next best thing. Thanks, everybody.